The Garden is an open, inclusive, Christ-like community
where people from many paths
gather to explore, engage, and seek inspiration
to transform our world
through the unconditional love of God.
Explore,
engage,
inspire.
We're glad you're here.
Hello, gardeners. We're so glad that you're here. Our prayer is that you will experience the love of God in and among our community of faith. Hey, just a couple things I'd like to highlight today. First, on Wednesday, we start our class online with Zoom. Haven't You Suffered Enough? With Brenda Lyon, Dr. Brenda Lyon, who will be leading the class, is also the author of the book. If you've started reading, I'm sure you have already been engaged, and it's making a difference. The second book that I'll refer to today as part of the sermon is something called Three Simple Rules, A Wesleyan Way of Living. It's by a man named Reuben Job. And today we're going to start exploring these three simple rules that can be applied to our lives today, just as they were in Wesley's day. If you'd be interested in a copy of this, we have some extras. Just send a donation into the garden and let us know you'd like a copy, and we'll send that off to you. Today we're exploring how it is that we can live life in ways that transform the world with love. And we've been given three simple rules by John Wesley to do just that. To do no harm, to do good, and to stay in love with God. Welcome to the garden. We're glad you're here.
If you see your brother standing by the road
with a heavy load from the seeds he sowed,
and if you see your sister falling by the way,
just stop and say, you're going the wrong way.
You've got to try a little kindness. Yes, show a little kindness.
Just shine your light for everyone to see.
And if you try a little kindness, then you'll overlook the blindness
of narrow-minded people on the narrow-minded streets. Lend a helping hand instead of doubt,
and the kindness that you show every day
will help someone along their way.
You've got to try a little kindness. Yes, show a little kindness.
Just shine your light for everyone to see.
And if you try a little kindness, then you'll overlook the blindness
of narrow-minded people on the narrow-minded streets.
You've got to try a little kindness. Yes, Lord, show a
Please join me in these universal words of peace. Shalom, salam, namaste, peace.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Just try. Take a little time out of your busy day to give encouragement to someone who's lost the way. Just try. Would I be talking to a stone if I asked you to share a problem that's not your own? Oh, no. We can change things if we start giving. Why don't you reach out and touch somebody's hand? Make this world a better place if you can. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Just try. You see an old friend on the street and he's down. Remember, his shoes could fit your feet. Just try. Try a little kindness and you'll see it's something that comes very naturally. Oh, yeah. We can change things if we start giving. Why don't you? Why don't you reach out and touch somebody's Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can.
Please join me in prayer. Dear God, help me to remember your call to do no harm. Often I try to do good things, to do your will, to be a good person. But how often do I stop and consciously ask to do no harm? Help me to ensure that what I do does not hurt someone else. Help me use words that connect, not divide. Help me choose actions that show your love and do not make someone feel less than. Help me to also focus this principle inward on myself. It can be so easy to judge myself, to compare myself with others, or to see myself as less than. But if you have created me in your image, then I am truly wonderfully and beautifully made. Help me to see myself as you see me. Help me think thoughts that bring inner peace, not turmoil and doubt. Help me act in ways that strengthen me, not ways that weaken my mind and body. I know that I need to do good, but help me to also focus on ensuring in all I do towards myself and others that I am doing no harm. Amen.
How is it that the simplest of rules are sometimes the hardest to follow? I mean, we get this, right? To love your neighbor, stand 6 feet apart. Do no harm, wear a mask. We can see its value and kind of get on board because it's really that simple. So then why do we so often get it wrong? I mean, do we need clarification? Are we not really committed to the welfare and health of others? Are we willing only as long as it's convenient? I mean, look around at the world today, and I think you'll find the answers to those questions. And here are the answers. Well, probably, maybe, yes, and no. Wesley, the reluctant founder of Methodism, was a witness to these kind of challenges in his own time, when people had different perspectives and lived, well, by different rules. Granted, there was no pandemic during his time, but in some ways the community, the politics, and the ways of the world were not all that different than our own. For Wesley, it was a changing world. There was a great gap between the rich and the poor. Some had the wealth and the ability to travel the world and make their way across the sea, while others were dirt poor, homeless, and hungry. There were issues around education and resources enough for all children. There were not enough jobs that paid a living wage. And in Wesley's day, there would have been those minimum wage essential workers. And I bet there would have been those big business people who were finding ways to take advantage of those government special incentive programs. Just like us, Wesley lived in a world where there were great fears about the future, and a divisiveness existed as well. It is in this climate that different people came to Wesley, and they asked him for a way of living that would keep them close and faithful to God. They saw the need to find something greater to hold on to in order to find a centering in the midst of a tumultuous world. So Wesley, in his great methodical way, established the general rules, a big, exhaustive list of rules. Yet in the midst of those rules, there were 3 simple rules. Now, they may be simple, but they're also profound, and they are as follows: do no harm, do good, and stay in love with God. For Wesley, the core of the gospel was that God's grace is a gift that is available to all of God's children. God loved everyone. One of his favorite scriptures was Psalm 145, verse 9. The Lord is good to all. God has compassion on all. Wesley believed every person could live fully and joyfully through God's amazing grace. And it was a collected, shared grace that is reflected not only in the rules, but if everyone followed these rules, it would not only benefit the individual, but it would benefit neighbor, the greater society, and the world. Wesley indeed did see that we're all in this together. Often we think that faithful living starts with what we do, but John Wesley began the simple rules instead with what we refrain from doing. Our first call is to avoid doing harm to others. This ground rule helps us to remember how interconnected we are with everyone and how our actions and inactions have a dramatic impact on the lives of others. I think that's an important lesson for us today. As you know, we're really all about the doing, not necessarily the way of being. For Wesley, do no harm was not about anything else but finding a way to live in close and deep relationship with God, with one another, so that we could be witness to God here on earth. To live into not doing harm is to connect with God, for God is a God of love, grace, and mercy, and would never do harm. Do no harm is a simple principle, but it's a really hard way to live. In our world today, conflict and division, well, they just seem to be a way of life. Starting with the desire to do no harm could be viewed as setting yourself up to let people run over you or putting yourself in a position where others might take advantage of you. But for author Reuben Job, who helps walk us through Wesley's rules, it's not about who is winning the race or who has the most toys or power. It's about being faithful to God. When I live in such a way that you know my goal is to do no harm, and I know that you're living in such a way where your goal is to do no harm, well, then we develop a deeper relationship built not on what we have, but on who we are and who we belong to. Yet this kind of living brings with it a vulnerability. Doing no harm is the commitment to careful living, being true to my word, and ensuring all my deeds bring with them an action that transmits goodness, not just for me and my people, but for all people. Living this way is not based on give or take, but on giving, on opening our hands, our lives, our hearts, to giving and living in God's grace. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus calls us to live into this way of being. Now note, take a look at it here. It doesn't include winning or always being on top of things. It doesn't include make sure you protect yourself. It doesn't include make sure you get the best education and you know your area of expertise. No, he calls us blessed when we are poor in spirit, when we are vulnerable, when we are mourning, when we are meek and hungry for justice, when we're merciful and pure of heart and peaceful. What would happen if we were to take this rule to do no harm and to let it take hold of our lives? How different would this world look? I mean, what if we really took wearing masks as a goal of doing no harm? What if we looked to racial equality with an eye towards doing no harm, or health care for all, or education for children? What if we thought about being a country that welcomes the refugee or the stranger as living a life of doing no harm? Now, I know you don't like me to get political, but darn it, the message Jesus shares is really political. Not in the sense of Democrats or Republicans, but in the sense that Jesus challenges us to do no harm through our way of living, our government, and all the institutional injustices that exist. He challenges the way we do harm people, and he teaches us to live and to love more freely, more willingly, more generously, and to do so not just with our people, with our friends and family, the Americans, or those people who say, hey, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Doing no harm is for everyone, for the refugee, for the person who you don't understand, for those who speak a different language. Not only those people, but it's really for everyone. The liars, the cheats, the manipulators, the mask wearers, the non-mask wearers, the people in office you love and those you can't stand. Yes, every person in this world is a child of God. For us to be better people, we could do our best work by getting vulnerable and being present with each other, with those people, with our people. And we could commit ourselves to live differently by saying, do no harm. The Apostle Paul uses this great word. The word is agape, which means God's abundant, unconditional, self-sacrificing love. Friends, the time has come for us to agape one another, to show one another what it means to lift each other up and to care for one another, body, mind, and spirit. To care for others as if they were our own children, our own grandchildren, our sisters, our brothers, or our best friends. What if our politicians entered into a space where they had a willingness to bring agape and to do no harm? What if they were all vulnerable and had to admit differences aren't really achieving much, and with agape there is common ground? Wesley would call this holy conferencing, all sitting face to face with agape and his 3 simple rules. Not only the politicians, but what about us? What if in our own households we committed to have homes where we do no harm? In doing so, it will change the climate of your home for the better. We know we live in ways that do harm, but naming it and adopting it as a way of life can change the environment in our homes. We will be mindful of our daily practices, the clothing we wear, the food we eat, the people we're inviting in. What if we found ways to live with reconciliation in our hearts, with open hearts, and a willingness to let God in with everyone we encounter? What if all sides said, we will do no harm? I mean, that means we come on this equal playing field where it's not your education or your wealth or any of those things we hide behind that give us direction. Only our desire to do no harm. I wonder what the world might look like if we did just that. When a person enters into the healthcare world, they take a Hippocratic oath. The oath is to first do no harm. So before they ever go into practice or see a patient or enter a room, they first commit to do no harm. What if we too decided it's time for us to take this Wesleyan oath of doing no harm before we enter into our daily life practice? Before we ever touched one another's life through conversation or work or on the road in the car? What if we remembered first, I am called to do no harm? I wonder if it would change your day and change the days of all those you encounter. What if you stepped into life with this kind of vulnerability? Enough vulnerability to say, God, lead me today in ways where I do no harm. In today's world, God is calling us not to live in big, bold ways, but to take small steps and to follow some simple rules and to simply say, God, help me today just to do no harm. Amen.
Good morning. I'm here to talk with you about some things that can help keep your lives and your interactions with people more simple. During the virus situation these last few months, everything seems to be becoming more complicated, and ideas that we believe in sometimes keep changing from day to day. Well, John Wesley, who was the founder of the Methodist Church, long ago gave us 3 ideas that we can use to help keep our lives in prayerful ways. He showed us that we should do no harm, do good, and love God. Now, the first thing he thought about was to do no harm, because if you avoid harm, you show a caring spirit. That enables us to show a more positive way to influence the other 2 ways of life, to do good for people and to show our love for God. We always want to make sure we treat our friends and families in a way we want to be treated. Loving God will show the love for everyone around us. Our actions with others can affect how we interact with others too. The best thing we can do in all these situations is keep our life simple, and especially make sure we follow these 3 things that John Wesley gave us. Let's say a prayer. Jesus, help us to remember that no matter how our lives change, you will help us remember that you are always with us. Amen.
Go now in peace, my dear friends, and may the love of God be yours today, tomorrow, and forevermore. And remember, do no harm. Amen.
I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on,
For it won't be long
till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Please swallow your pride.
If I have things you need to borrow,
For no one can fill
those of your needs that you won't let show.
You just call on me, brother.
When you need a hand, we all need somebody
To lean on.
I just might have a problem that you understand.
We all need somebody.
To lean on me.
When you're not strong,
And I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on,
for it won't be long
till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
you just call on me, brother.
When you need a hand, we all need somebody
To lean on.
I just might have a problem that you understand.
We all need somebody.
To lean on. If there is a load
You have to bear.
that you can't carry, I'm right up the road.
And I'll share your load.
If you just call me,
Call me.
you need a friend.
Call me if you need a friend. Call me.
Oh, baby, now.
Call me.
If you need a friend.
Call me.
If you need a friend.
Call me.
If you need a friend.
Call me.
Never need a friend.
Call me. If you need a friend, call me.
If you see your brother standing by the road
With a heavy load from the seeds he sowed.
and if you see your sister falling by the way,
Just stop and say, you're going the wrong way.
you've got to try a little kindness. Yes, show a little kindness.
Just shine